The athlete, a figure in motion, the embodiment of strength, agility, endurance, and grace. What is it that puts into the heart of the athlete valor and the joy of competition? What do we call the union of the spiritual and physical? The classical Greeks understood. They called it Aidos. Pam Lowrie and John Wantz, professors of art at College of DuPage, proposed that a ceramic mural be created for the new physical education and community recreation building. In the summer of 1982, work begins on a mural that will celebrate the athlete. John and Pam's design is a combination of their individual ideas. Their theme depicts the athlete in motion, male and female runners portrayed against a pictorial timeline of humankind's history. To obtain the feeling of fluidity in athletic movement, Pam and John have enlisted the aid of college media personnel for filming and students as volunteer runners. As the volunteers run across the football field, they are filmed at 72 frames per second. When the film is projected at normal speed, the runners appear to be moving in slow motion. This allows John and Pam to see the specific positions of figures in motion. These will be used as models for the mural. Slides and prints are also made from the film, enabling Pam and John to make drawings and clay models.
7 positions for each of the figures.
How did you decide on 7 positions?
Well, I decided based on the grace of the figure, and I tried to get representative poses throughout the sequence that somehow harmonized between the 2 figures. And this is what I came up with. The female and then the male. Then I had Jean make prints of these. Negative prints, I guess. Everything's reversed.
Yeah, I like the white shadows on those.
Yeah. Oh, they're pretty to look at, but they're hard to draw from. I just referred to that, and then I referred to the slide in here, which is minute.
I think these are much of a draw from, even though they're reversed. I wish I would have
well,
had
some details I could see better in the slides. So then I just drew and redrew the sequence until it looked right to me. Does it look right to you?
Well, with the steps on there, with the leap, the spacing is very nice. I like the shapes of the figures. They're very much like Matisse.
Yeah, and I tried to also, in spacing them, consider the negative shapes, so that the negative shapes were also interesting. And then for backgrounds, we could put in the representative heights of civilization, starting with fossils.
I think that's a super idea. That would be like a metaphor for the whole history of man as the background. I think that's terrific.
When the design is finalized, the next procedure is to develop the clay and the glazes that will be used.
And so that I could cast copies from it, and then we could try different paint on there for color and try it one way or another way, something on that. But I don't know what you think of it.
Well, I like that the transition of figures is nice coming up. It looks very classical. Sculpted.
I was thinking of a piece in the Art Institute where the figures are coming out of the stone. Michelangelo's
slaves,
pieces, slaves, and I think it has a classical quality. I don't like the background though. I think it's very flat and it doesn't really do that much. I like the way the laurel wreath is in a separate area. I think it gives a little bit of a focus.
Well, I think the movement of the figures from the outside up, and I like the cutting away of the edge, the shape of that. But I agree, the background needs to have more interest. It's just the figures there.
The only thing that really was done was to have this kind of scalloped up, and then this little pile down here looks like dirt. Well, that's very appropriate. But,
how is that appropriate?
That's ground. And then I made another one that I really thought a lot about the background. And one way that I thought maybe of dealing with it is to break it up into a sequence, a starting sequence, sitting, a rising, and then a running sequence, a starting, a running, and a stopping, and then a leaping sequence, a start to
Pam
leap.
and John have developed many different combinations of clay, testing mainly for texture, color, and shrinkage. To reduce the normal 20% shrinkage rate, a mixture using 30% grog, which is pre-fired crushed clay, is added to the clay mixture. For the figures on the mural, John and Pam want a universal flesh color to result after the clay is fired, a rich earth tan that favors no particular race. Therefore, color is an important aspect in clay selection. 7,000 pounds of the selected clay are purchased. John and Pam create their own glazes, mixing the powder in cups, identifying the components of each glaze, and storing the samples for future reference. Now work is being done on the background of the mural. Ideas have come from students who did their research in the college library. They have found pictures in books that portrayed each of the periods in the mural.
The background symbolizes those cultures of the past that had the most influence on our present civilization.
Specifically, the end panels highlight the dawn of consciousness in the primitive cave cultures. The second panels reflect the Egyptian period. The third panels are classical Greek. The fourth are the Renaissance. Then comes the Industrial Revolution. The technological revolution is represented in the center panels.
A photograph in a book from the Chicago Historical Society has inspired John and Pam to design special easels on which to build the mural. Under John's supervision, welding students construct 3 rolling easels, each of which are 8 feet high and 12 feet wide, and one being expandable. Each easel is capable of supporting 1.5 tons. Galvanized steel is used in the construction of the easels in order to withstand the enormous weight of the clay. And then there is the water to consider. Galvanized steel won't corrode as water is sprayed over the clay to keep it wet and pliable as it is being shaped. While the easels are being built, Pam creates the first elements of the mural. Because many of the background figures and designs will be repeated, it is necessary to build molds. First, the clay form is sculpted. casting box is set around the form and sealed with clay. Molding plaster is mixed by hand, then poured onto the original clay form. As it is poured, the plaster is deflected to reduce air bubbles against the form that would mar reproduction. Then the plaster is leveled. Once the plaster hardens, it will become a mold for additional lotus forms. The clay is depressed into a mold to duplicate the original clay tile repeatedly. The 7,000 pounds of clay has to be wedged before it is used. Wedging is a kneading process used to remove the air bubbles and to increase the clay's plasticity. It's much like kneading dough. Each bag of clay weighs 50 pounds and takes 10 minutes to wedge, at least. It's all done by hand. There are times when the artist is called upon to be resourceful as well as frugal. Notice the level John is using. It is actually a sign from the old Fine Arts building, Building M. As the supports are being built, the molds continue to set.